Hi, Maame. So welcome.
This is so weird.
I know this is so weird because we're actually good friends
Yeah.
outside of all this,
Yeah.
and it's super weird that I'm sitting here talking to you to interview you.
Yeah.
But then I looked forward to having this conversation with you because you're somebody who is pretty inspirational. You stand out in the crowd, and I mean, your creativity has no ceilings. It goes all the way through. Would you? I think I just introduced you for, but can you tell us who you are? Brief background.
Yes. Okay. So my name is Maame Adjei. I always find it really hard to say what I do, because I feel like I do so many things.
That's fine. You can mention all three or four. We have people coming on here who do multiple stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I just like to say I'm a creative entrepreneur. So I do many things that all fall under the creative umbrella.
Okay.
So I'm a producer. I write. I direct. I do creative research. I copyright.
You act.
Gosh, I forgot about that. I act. Yeah, so a few things.
A few things.
Yeah.
Nice. So, creative entrepreneur. There's a recent rise of creativity in Ghana. I call it a Renaissance period. I mean, people have always been creative, but before or prior to a few years back, it was hard to live only on creativity. But now people are doing it and are actually going past the broke artist stigma and are living on creative incomes. How would you say, how easy is it for that to happen?
I mean, I want to, because you said there's a recent rise, and I'm glad that you sort of explained it, because I don't think there's a rise, because people have always been creative, like you said. I think that the platforms and the spaces and the opportunities
Yes.
for creatives to flourish and specifically make money has shot up. Like I've been in Ghana now 9 years, and the difference is stark. What was the question? How do I think that happened? Or?
Yes. How do you think that happened?
I mean, it's hard to pinpoint one thing, but I think the internet has really like changed the game.
Yes.
There's global access to content, and so there's an opportunity for you to be anywhere in the world and still have impact anywhere in the world. And so I think that really has come to sort of allow creatives in Ghana or wherever you are to really share your work and have it reach an audience that previously you just couldn't, unless you sort of went into a specific space. So if it's filmmaking, unless you were in Hollywood. If it's art, maybe unless it's like some kind of art Basel in Miami or something. But now you can literally be on your phone, create, and have those eyeballs on you. And that generates income, I mean, in Ghana specifically, I think that the idea of being a creative has matured a bit.
Yes.
But
it still has a long way to go.
It still has a long way to go, but it's now you could be a photographer, and your father might not say, "Hey, Dad," and then where's your job?
Yeah.
Whereas 10, 15 years ago, it was like, that's a side thing.
So for you as a creative entrepreneur, what medium is comfortable for you, or what medium do you enjoy most? Because I've watched African City, which was very good.
Yeah.
You played the role of Zainab.
Yeah.
I've seen you go through furniture making. I've seen you do installations. I've even seen you speak on TEDx before, and your Instagram has over 100K followers. What do you think? What medium is best for you?
For me, I enjoy the process of production, like seeing an idea come to life, and that step-by-step process of like taking it from your head to paper, then taking it from paper to visual, building out a story, physically building out a story. If it's a film, locations, actors, like I enjoy that process. So, I mean, these days I don't really call myself an actress. Not that I'm not interested in acting, but I'm more interested in being behind the scenes and seeing an idea come to life.
But then how do you combine the two? Because you do extremely well in front of the camera and behind the camera as well.
Yeah.
So how do you combine the two?
How do I combine the two? I mean, I haven't acted in a long time. I think the last 3 years, everything I've done has been sort of behind the scenes in terms of acting.
Yes. So you're in the middle of producing a movie, no?
Yes. I'm in the middle of producing my first feature. And it's a film that I'm not going to be in. I'm not interested in being in front of the camera because like the story is so it's so connected to me that I want to just be behind the scenes and see it growing. So like I don't want to be in front of the camera.
Do you want to tell us what the story is about?
Yeah, so the film's called Afternoon Jump. It's set in early 1970s Ghana. So it starts right when Kwame Nkrumah dies in 1972. And it's a love story about two young people, their journey to build a relationship in a time that was very shaky in Ghana. The female lead character's dad was Kwame Nkrumah's scriptwriter. And so it just follows her journey of dealing with everything that comes up after Kwame Nkrumah dies for her family, socially, financially, and trying to navigate school and navigate love.
Nice. So how do you come up with the script? What inspires you?
I'm a listener. I'm a people watcher. I'm inspired by vintage. I love old things, DJ. You already know. I love anything old. I'm like, what's that? Well, how can I have it? So this story specifically, I had an aunt who was telling me about her life when she was in Legon. And all these parties they used to go to at Pedro Acid Lodge.
Yeah.
And she said they used to go to these things called jumps.
Yeah.
And they were kind of like, it was like the party. It was like going to a club, but usually in the daytime. So live band, drinks, just vibes. And it just sounded so fly. I was like, wow, I can imagine like a live band, high life, drinking your bubra, sitting by a beach with your friends. And so this was like 6 years ago. So that scene kind of stuck in my head for all these years. And then I just started envisioning what that time was like, in the early 70s.
So that tells you the importance of storytelling.
Yeah.
For example, especially with the African narrative.
Yeah.
Because for us as Africans, we don't often tell our stories.
Yeah.
And the West has told our stories, but it's a skewed perspective.
Yeah.
And they continue to publish those stories which are untrue.
Yeah.
So from what you just said, it tells me the importance of us as Africans telling our own stories.
Yeah.
It could be any career in which you come from.
Yeah.
You could wear different hats, but then it's important. Important is even not a word, it's crucial.
Yep.
That you tell your own story based on your perspective.
Yes.
And the perspective of an African.
Yes.
And that is one thing I love when I go on your social media. I see you being African through and through. For example, Neo-Africanism. You're African and you portray that through. So what would you tell other creatives who want to express themselves and tell their own stories? Yeah.
I mean, it's like if we don't tell our own stories, who's going to tell it, right? Other people can tell it, but we can tell it the best and be the most authentic. And I think it's not just important for us to tell our stories. I think we should tell a wide range of stories, right? So I always say, like, if you look at other cultures, they have their stories told from centuries. Like, you have Gone with the Wind, you have all these Caesar movies, stories about Jesus' birth.
Apart from even when it comes to, Western traditions. I know a whole bunch of Western traditions and, King Henry IV,
yes.
Louis XIII.
We've seen them all.
Yeah.
We've seen them all. So it's important that if, storytelling is supposed to be some kind of an archive for who we are, right? So when we're long gone, people can see film, read books, hear music that relates to who we were. So if it's supposed to be an archive, then we have to capture who we were before this time. It's great. I think now, a lot of content from this time is seeing like is reaching global spaces, which is great. But who were we in 1970? Who were we in 1950? Who were we pre-slavery, post-colonialism? Not just even as Africans, but as Black people, right? So I think it's not just telling our stories, but telling those stories that just have been buried in the dark for so long, so that they exist when we're long gone.
So this is a question I ask everybody who comes on this show. Formal education. What do you think is the impact of formal education in an artist's life? Do you think it's important? Or creativity is something that is inborn, you're born naturally with it, and formal education doesn't help?
I mean, I can't really answer that question. I can only answer based on my experience.
Yeah, of course. This is what this show is about, sharing your opinions.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any formal experience as a creative.
You didn't go to art school?
I did not go to art school.
People would find that surprising.
Really?
Yeah.
I wanted to be a psychologist. I did my undergrad in psychology, and then I got a master's in healthcare administration, which is what my background was before I jumped into creative.
But then that's all the way here. Healthcare administration.
Yeah.
And now you're all the way on this side.
I'm all the way on this side.
So can you explain moving from A to this side?
There's no explanation. Life just happened. No, I always knew I was a creative person. But again, when you haven't grown up in a space where you can visualize creativity as your life's work, it's like, okay, I like filming things, I like making furniture, what is that? That's like if I'm bored. But it took, for me, moving back and just having, I wasn't really happy in my career, and having the forethought to say to myself, okay, what do I want to do with my life for the next 30 years? And tap into the things that really moved me, and they were all creative. So that was my transition. No formal education. I wish I did. I wish I knew this is what I wanted to do way before, so that I didn't waste. I mean, everything happens for a reason, but I could have really honed in on some things that now seem so tedious because like life is happening.
So I've worked with creatives for some time, and actually that's how You
are a creative.
Yes, I am. Yeah. I'm sorry. But I mean, I've worked with creative artists for some time. And one thing that stands out to me is creators just want to create and put content out there. They don't want to sharpen their business skills. For example, it's for them when you're talking about business structures and other things which is rudimentary, they feel stifled. Yeah. All they want to do is create content and not think about anything else. Yeah. How important do you think sharpening your business skills helps in the creative economy?
Yeah, I mean, hindsight is 20/20. It's critical, Being a creative is, at some point, it becomes a business, and you have to approach it as such. But it's very hard, like you said, for creatives to come to that point where you start putting structures around your work, because creativity doesn't really come with a lot of structure, Yes. Like ideas pop up whenever you sort of move with the energy around you. But at some point you do have to create business structure, and it's really hard. For me, I know that's my weakness, like really creating business around my work. Like we've had this conversation, TJ, like it took me so long to even figure out how do I turn my work into real revenue. I'm still kind of figuring it out. So it's very important, but it's like, where do you even go as a creative when you want to start putting structures around your work? What's the starting point? At least in this space that we're in, there's no...
But for me, not to cut you off, but the internet is a massive resource.
Yeah,
that's where you can start with. And I think it starts with the will to learn. You have to admit to yourself that I don't know what this is. I don't know what terms of an agreement means. So I need to learn what it feels. Because when these companies and these brands come to you, they come with a legal team on retainer. Yeah. And it's like you're negotiating from an individual's perspective. Yeah. So there's a mismatch. But then what I tell other creatives is that, they should, it starts with self-education.
Yeah. So I don't think... I'm going to challenge you on this, because I don't think it starts for, a willingness to learn. If you don't know the thing is even important, why would you learn it? You know, like it takes a while for you to understand that when brands come to you, they come with a legal team, because you just think, okay, this is an opportunity. They're offering me this. You don't even read too much, because it's like, I'm trying to make money and this is an opportunity to make money. So you don't really dig in too much. It takes a while to get to a point where you realize that they're coming to you because you have value.
Yes.
So you should like negotiate and have somebody who helps, or whatever the case may be. It took me forever to even the first time I negotiated for anything was maybe like 3 years ago, and I've been doing this for 9 years. Before, it was just like, okay, fine. Like, you don't want to rock the boat because you know how hard it is as a creative to make money. So I don't think it's that you're not willing to learn. You have to come to a point where you recognize your power.
Yes.
I think that's the key. And once you do, then you start understanding, okay, I might have to leave some things on the table because I don't want to get used, but it's all a process.
It's all a process.
Yeah.
And also, well, right before you came on, my other guest, we were talking, and one thing that came up was delegation. You don't have to do it yourself.
It's so hard.
You need to, at one point, once you're confident in your skills and your abilities, you have to delegate.
Yeah.
Because let's not forget that the industry is known as a creative industry. So it is an industry. What goes into making industry? Systems, structures, delegations, other things. So it starts small, but once you're comfortable, there's nothing wrong with delegating other responsibilities for other people to come on board. You know, because most of the creative teams who have all these fairs, exhibitions, Abba, Miami, they have teams behind them.
But TJ, how do you delegate when you don't have money?
Are we gonna put it?
Yes. Listen, you're my friend, so I'm gonna. How do you delegate when you don't have money?
So even you need to start small. That's what I think.
Tell me what that looks like.
One thing that I always try to put in place, even for me, is there are two key principles. One, live below your means.
Okay.
Two, manage whatever you have when you have it.
Okay.
So sometimes, if your management skills are poor, it translates when, the value or the commissions become big. You need to be able to learn how to manage small before you can manage big. So for creative entrepreneurs and those in the hospitality business, for example, the pandemic affected them the most because there was no access to spaces. How did the pandemic affect you as a creative entrepreneur?
Yeah, I mean, no. Most of the work that I had done the last 2 years were from brands and businesses that weren't based in Ghana. And so COVID happened, no one's traveling, no one's doing any work. So it affected me. I mean, I did no work for other people. But in a positive way, it gave me the space to work on my own projects. I think that's things that I had put aside.
Is that where your scripts came up?
So I had written the script before then, not fully, maybe a few pages, but I did most of it, finished it during COVID. And I don't think if COVID had happened, then I could have done that. So yeah, I mean, financially, it took a toll, but creatively, I think it was
rewarding.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
So you used to have a YouTube channel based on travel.
Yeah.
Girl going places. What happened to that?
You know what happened to it. Girl Going Places. So I started that show in 2013.
It was a travel show.
It was a travel show. And the whole idea was to really showcase the continent in a dynamic way. So not safari, not, these typical tropes that you hear about the continent. Like
Not a finished product.
What do you mean with the finished product?
Finished product as in the glam that they show you, the travel glam.
I mean, that would have even been fine, but I didn't want to do this like, let's travel the wild and see Africa and animals. And I wanted to show that you could, if you wanted to go on vacation, you could come to Accra, you could go to Dar es Salaam, you could go to Kigali, like the normal day-to-day of the continent. And at that time, there weren't people was coming to Ghana. I mean, Ghana's always been a good entry point for people who want to come to Africa. Yeah, it's like they call it Africa Light. But people weren't traveling the continent as heavy as they are now. Like, things have completely changed. Again, the internet. So people are now seeing Ghana and all these different countries and connecting to it, and people who would have never stepped foot on the continent are coming. So I guess my passion for the project changed, and I felt like there were so many avenues for people to see what we have to offer that I didn't feel like I needed to do that anymore. And I think creatives should be allowed to change direction and drop things and pick things I think sometimes we feel like if you started something, you need to finish it to the end.
Life is dynamic.
Yeah.
And you need to learn when to say no, this isn't working, and recognize that not as a failure, but as a lesson.
Absolutely.
And pick it up from there.
Yeah.
And see how you can strategize and do it better.
Yeah.
You know, and that's one thing that holds people back, the fear of failure.
Absolutely.
But once you don't start that journey, you don't learn your lessons from there. So are we going to see a resurrection of Girl Going Places anytime soon?
No. Maybe in another form, something else, but not as a travel show. Definitely not.
So you enjoy traveling, don't you?
I do.
How has it changed your view on life?
I mean, traveling I feel like traveling is so connected to your self-esteem, and it seems very la 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 la. But like once you start traveling.
La 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 la, what does that mean?
I mean, it seems like very like extra poetic, like traveling is connected to your self-esteem, but like really, it really is, especially traveling your own space where you're from, right? I mean, it's very easy. I remember, I was just like, I'm a Ghana girl, and all I knew was Accra. I hadn't even been to my hometown, But once I started traveling Ghana, I related it to being in a relationship. It's like you know everything about your partner, the good, the bad, the ugly. So no one can come and tell you anything for it to shake you, right? So it's like when you know your country, you know the space you're living in, good, bad, and ugly. It's like, okay, this is where I'm from. All of it, I take it in, so that if somebody has a judgment about it, it doesn't shake you. And for me, that's what travel has done. It's like, first of all, it elevates your creativity completely.
It does. It fuels your creativity
completely.
So badly.
Completely.
That's the same thing that it does for me. So, for example, I enjoy traveling because being in transition from one space to the other gives me the opportunity to internalize whatever is happening with me. Okay. And I always try to keep a journal on hand so I can put in notes on different times and places that I've been. And it helps me when I read these notes back, and it gives me a broader perspective on where I was and what point in life I was during that. Okay. So for you being a staple in the creative industry in Ghana,
am I staple?
I would call you a staple. Once you go online, you're looking for creative entrepreneurs, your name stands out. So I need you to own and recognize the work that you've done.
Done.
Can I get a thank you?
Thank you.
Amen?
Amen.
Good. So what would you tell other creative entrepreneurs who look up to you, the young ones coming up?
Wow.
The other generation? It doesn't have to be word of advice. Just, what would you tell your younger self? That's a better question.
Don't be afraid. That would be my biggest thing. I was so fearful of everything. Looking back, there's just so many things that I didn't even put my foot out for because I was afraid. Afraid that I would fail, afraid that I wasn't worthy. Just fear. Fear. It's still the constant conversation I have with myself. Don't be afraid, Yeah.
Your TED Talk.
Yeah.
The subject was imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And fear.
Yeah.
Is this something you're still battling?
Yeah, absolutely. It's something that I consistently battle, and have to constantly sort of remind myself that fear actually doesn't exist. There was a poet at some event I went to a few years ago in the States, and she said, fear is a growling animal with no teeth. It's like this, it can actually do nothing to you. And once you cross over the fear, like everything that you want and need is on that side. So these days what I do is like when I'm really fearful of something, I actually do it. Like if somebody comes to me with an opportunity and my initial reaction of my body is like, I'm like, yes. I'll
That's
just say
what
yes.
you need to do.
Yeah, I'll just say yes. Knowing that I'm scared as I'll say yes, and then in the end I'll do it, and then look back and be like, that wasn't so bad. Yeah, I think that if I had to give advice to any creative coming up or creative now, is just to push through fear. I think fear is such a big hurdle for most people, no matter what field you're in, but especially as a creative, and especially as a creative in this space, because creativity I don't think is valued as much. So it's very hard to just be open and confident about your abilities. But that would be my biggest advice. Like when you're afraid of something, actually do it. That's the only way that I get through. Like I'm constantly afraid, constantly. Maybe in a way that people would be surprised, but I do it anyway, and that's how I continue to grow.
Yes, and which is true because it happens all the time in my industry and the businesses that I run. I jump in the deep end and learn how to swim.
Yeah.
It might not be the most pleasant feeling, but if you make it alive, you're set.
Absolutely.
And the reward comes from that.
Yeah.
Speaking of reward, what does success mean to you personally? That's a big word and a big ask, but we need to know.
What does success mean to me? Success means
personally, your personal opinion, yes.
First would be peace of mind. Being able to wake up every day with no turmoil in my life, even though I don't think that's possible in life. There's always going to be some turmoil. But having a certain level of peace and calm that surrounds my world. Being able to do the things that I love and make money from the things that I love, never having to compromise. So being able to do, if I don't want to do it, I don't do it. Living in a really nice house with lots of trees and plants and a really nice pool and 3 cats and lots of
You're a cat person?
I love cats. I hate dogs. I love cats. Well, I don't hate dogs. Peter,
I'm more of a dog person.
I like cats. Being able to travel, see most of the world, being able to see my son grow up to be exactly who he's meant to be. Yeah, those things.
You recently became a mother.
I do.
What is your experience with motherhood?
Motherhood's crazy.
Can you break it down?
Motherhood is like such a mix of everything, like all the emotions piled into one. And you could be so frustrated, so tired, and then he just like looks at you and smiles, and you're like, that's it. Like everything's okay. Motherhood's been crazy. It's been crazy. Such a learning experience. Like I've grown. He's only 5 months now, and the growth within myself has been insane. And what I've noticed is the things that I should have been doing for myself before I became a mother, like working out, eating better, taking time for myself. Like now, I'm so consistent with them. They've become so important to me. Whereas before it was like it didn't matter, but now they matter because somebody's relying on my mental health, on my physical strength. So motherhood's good.
So, which other creatives do you look up to? Who inspires you?
Wow. In Ghana or in general?
In general, it could be anywhere.
I'm inspired by a lot of people. I'm inspired by Issa Rae just because her trajectory, like where she started from, how she's continued to grow. And I think a lot of people say this thing about, when you're moving up, you take your people with you, and most of the time I don't see it, but with her, like I actually really see that like community that she's building and sort of carrying with her. So I'm really inspired by her journey.
When do we expect to see African Jump, the movie preview?
So everything takes time. Afternoon Jump, I'm hoping that we will shoot early next year. We're currently in the fundraising stages. Having some good conversations about that. So I'm hoping that all will be secured by the end of this year so that we can start shooting early next year. And have it out in the world by the summer.
Is it a short film or is it a full-length feature?
It's a full-length feature, yes. So it's going to involve a lot of work, especially because it's a period piece. So a lot of details, a lot of things that we need to take into consideration.
Is it your first directorial debut?
It will be my first. I've directed a few things before, but it'll be the first time I've directed anything that's scripted. So yes, and first time that I've written anything that is going to be shot in terms of script. So it's all very exciting and new. But I'm very, very excited.
Okay. So, I mean, African City was big. It was ahead of its time, for example, because I'm figuring it took inspiration from Sex and the City. And then it transfused it into the African environment.
Right.
And is there going to be a season 2? Because, I mean, I've gone on YouTube, I've seen people asking in the comments when there's going to be a season 2. Is that going to happen anytime soon?
It's crazy. That's one of the questions I get all the time. I have no idea. There is a season 2. Is there going to be a season 3? I don't know. And I don't know.
Oh, that's a disappointing answer.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what life brings. Yeah. We'll see what life brings. Yeah.
What's more important for you in building a career? I ask people this question all the time.
Okay.
Hard work, passion, or talent?
Ooh, all of it. Can you take one of those out to
So here's a breakdown. Passion is great towards building a career because it means that you don't detach from whatever you're focused on. You're super passionate about. Hard work, that comes to the rigor of making something thrive. And talent means you're born naturally with it. For you, it comes easy. You don't second guess yourself. So people place emphasis on any of these 3. For example, some people believe that hard work beats talent because if you work hard enough, you can exceed somebody with talent because then every day you sharpen your skill and you end up being a master of that skill.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yes, and passion also counts because that gives you that drive to succeed. So for you, for example, for you, what kind of what is your character? Yes.
Yeah, I think it's passion. Because when I'm really passionate about something, like I have to see it through, and it might take time. And at certain points, maybe I'm not even putting in as much work as I should. But if it's here, if it's sitting on my chest, and I'm passionate about it, like eventually it has to come to life, or I'm not going to be able to sit still. So I think I lead with passion first.
All right. All right. Well, Maame, thank you for coming. I've enjoyed this thoroughly. And I'm sure after this, you're going to give me tips and reviews.
Yes, I am. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome.